2 more minutes. We'll let anyone who might be coming in last moment to give them a chance. All right. Yeah. If you are a presenter, there's seats in the front row. Plenty of seating. Hey, good to see you. Kind of awkward. Yeah. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. Well, good morning, everyone. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet, I'm John Slaughter, Washoe County Manager. Welcome to our first ever employee development event for our Washoe Impact Awards Day. I'm so pleased that we've been able to expand this now annual event to include our most valuable asset, all of you, our Washoe County employees. Last year, we sort of flipped the script on what was our annual State of the County, our annual report to the community. I had been talking, I had done a few of those, and I'm like, you know, how can we make this a little bit better? How can we change this to be a little different, a little more meaningful, and hopefully that's what we're doing with this event. The Washoe Impact Awards, hopefully you are aware of that. The event is this evening. We're very excited of that. The awards are based on our 3 values from our Washoe County Strategic Plan. Effective communication, integrity, and quality public service. And by highlighting these awards tonight, we've introduced a new way to honor you, our employees, through that vision, at the same time while telling the community what we do every day to impact the citizens of Northern Nevada, really of not just Washoe County, but all of Northern Nevada. So tonight, we're excited. We're going to find out who the 2018 Washoe Impact Award winners are. And then we can also spend some time this evening telling the community about our wonderful accomplishments that our employees are making every day. So last year, when we were planning these events, this event, I asked the committee that plans this event to think about expanding what we're doing for this year, expanding what we did last year, expanding this year, to include a development opportunity for our employees. We were just getting the awards event off the ground, and they said, hold off, we're going a little too fast. But here we are today, a year later, and we have expanded it. I'm very excited about that. You know, exactly what I had hoped for, bringing our employees in to a morning event with some engaging speakers, helping enrich our development within Washoe County. So today, this morning, I have an ask for all of you. I would ask that as we're going through all of the speakers this morning, that you think about these questions. What is it that you're working on that is innovative, that's changing the way we do things, or that offers a little different, perhaps more efficient way to deliver one of our services to the public? So think about that as you listen to all of our speakers this morning. Maybe next year we'll be listening to you, given an opportunity for you to come up and talk about the things that you do. So my vision for this event is not concluded. Really, what I am hoping for is, in the end, that we are able to expand this really kind of into a multi-day event, allowing as many employees as possible to come in and experience what you're going to experience this morning. We're very close to outgrowing this venue for that vision. We've talked a little bit about maybe we've got the great facility right next door, the Reno Livestock Event Center. They have the indoor arena there. Maybe we expand there. We can house quite a few people. No rodeo events required, though, if you attend there when we're there. So now, let me introduce our MC for the morning for this inaugural event, this portion of the event, Danny LaQuee. Danny, I did it, didn't I? We've been joking, as we were practicing, we've been joking about Donnie's name, and I just did that. I apologize. Donnie is Washoe County's Chief Deputy Recorder and a member of our Washoe Leadership Program. So I'll turn it over to Donnie.
Of course, he gets my last name right. That's the hard part. Well, good morning, Washoe County employees. I'm so happy to come before you today and introduce a great lineup of innovative speakers from our own organization, and of course, the creative and energizing keynote speaker today, Kim Cook from Burning Man. You know, this is an excellent opportunity to look around and just appreciate the diversity with which this organization serves our community. Whether you fight fires or you build roads or anything else, we all have one thing in common, right? We're public servants. And public service means being able to use your professional skills to serve our community full time. But that focus is something we can easily forget, right? You know, I heard a story one time about a reporter who came upon a couple of bricklayers building a wall. He came to the first bricklayer, and this guy was, hunched over his wall as he's putting the bricks on. He looks tired and worn out, just all the life drained out of his face. If you've ever been by my department on like a Monday morning before my first couple of cups of coffee, that's about what he looks like. And he asked him, "What are you doing?" And he turned to him and said, "What's it look like? I'm building a wall." And then he went on to complain that he felt overworked, and ultimately he just felt like he was wasting his life and time because he comes here every day and he just lays brick after brick after brick. It seems like nothing changes. So the reporter goes down the line a little bit to the second bricklayer. And she's a little bit different. First of all, she's been smiling and whistling the whole time since he got there. And he asks her the same question, "What are you doing?" And she turns to him and says, "I just feel like the luckiest person in the world. I get to come here every day and I get to work on these beautiful and useful pieces of architecture. I get to turn these simple pieces of brick into a magnificent masterpiece." And so both of these people were doing the same job. They're both asked the same question. What's the difference? It's their mindset, isn't it? One was focused on the task at hand, and the other one saw the big picture and what her team could ultimately accomplish together. So we might ask ourselves, which one of those am I? Am I focused on the task at hand, or are we looking at the bigger picture? I think there's a good chance if you've taken the time to come here this morning, you're probably toward that bigger picture end of the spectrum. But how can we keep that fire alive? One way is through engagement in programs like the ones you'll hear about today. These weren't just dreamt up by people with that, again, task-focused mindset, but put into action and the obstacles overcome by members of our team who are actively working to use their positions in order to serve our community better. When I left the Washoe Impact Awards last year, I went back to my department with one goal in mind, and that was to work with my team on a project for which we were proud enough to submit for a nomination the following year. And we did, and we're a finalist, so, along with many other worthy nominees. But like John said, we encourage you to do the same as you hear about the programs today, and hopefully we do see you here next year. One key factor to our growth is belonging to an organization which facilitates and encourages our development and leadership skills. This morning's event is one such way in which we've come together as an organization to remind ourselves what's possible when team members are engaged in their work. And we understand that the quality of our service, it's not something that's measured by, say, the amount of facilities we have or the cars in our fleets or computers in cubicles. We're measured by the people that make up this organization, people like you, because you are ultimately the ones who've been entrusted to serve our community professionally. And you are the ones who will come up with those next great ideas that make this a better place to live tomorrow, and the ones who will put those ideas into action. And with any luck and hard work and dedication, your efforts may result in something like the programs that we're here to learn about today. So, are you ready to hear from our Washoe County leaders who are talking the talk and walking the walk? All right. Yeah, we can clap. Our first presentation today is from the 2017 winners of our Effective Communication Award. The definition of that value states, "We believe in simple, accurate, and clear communication. We encourage the open exchange of ideas and information. The creation of CSD University is at the heart of those words. Today, we have Dave Solaro and his team from CSD here to tell us more about how they achieved doing just that with the rollout of the CSD University program. So will you please join me in welcoming the winners of last year's Washoe Impact Award for Effective Communication, Dave Solaro and his team.
All right, I'm going to be looking for a little bit of participation in this next statement. Good morning. Good morning. Come on, we can do better than that. This is, after all, a university pep rally, so good morning. Good morning. Thank you, much better. So as Donnie said, I'm Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager. I'm also the Director of the Community Services Department, and by default, I'm a university president, which is pretty cool. Just keep adding those titles. We've been asked here today, one of the things someone told me is, don't be boring. So hopefully, we are not going to be boring through this whole process. I've got a whole team behind me. So we've been asked here today to talk about a specific value of Washoe County, a value that we at CSD have taken to heart. In fact, we've created an entire university curriculum around that. That value is effective communication. So directly out of the strategic plan, we believe in simple, accurate, and clear communication. We encourage the open exchange of ideas and information.
So CSD University, or CSDU, is a dynamic 3-hour training session that right now we're offering to all employees within Community Services Department.
I want you to be able to have the information you need to be able to talk to the customer, to talk to the citizens.
We have speakers from each of our divisions within the Community Services Department. It helps to provide kind of a better grasp for all of our CSD employees on the vast variety of services that we provide, who to talk to for what, so that when we get those calls in, where is it that I report this pothole in the road? If that comes into, say, our planning division, we know exactly where to send that. We know the person, the phone number, etc. So it's not playing phone tag from one division to the next, trying to get them to the right person.
You live there, we live there. Really help them understand what it is you're doing and why. That's really the benefit of what this Community Service Department University does.
That's one of the things that we focused on as part of CSD University, is moving to more of a concierge approach. And that's something that I think that a lot of our employees will take away from CSD University.
So that was our video from last year as we won the award, which was fantastic. As you're going to see behind us, this is really about the employees and the citizens, what we do, why we do it, how we inform and assist our customers, whether those are external customers to the county or our internal customers within the county family. CSD University acknowledges that there's a need to offer an open exchange of information across all of our divisions. We try to do that in a simple and clear manner so that our employees know at the end of the day what we're striving for is a consistent message. One of the things we hear an awful lot is, oh, I got an answer from one person, I got a different answer from someone else. So we're trying to strive for a consistent message. Unfortunately, effective communication is not easy. It's difficult. There are different styles. There are different expectations. People take the information in at different rates. There are different medias that you can communicate. It's a two-way street. It's not just one direction, it's both directions. So that's very difficult sometimes to get to and understand. One of the ways that we did this with Community Services Department University is it's not just one person droning on and on, trying to tell someone a story. We have a whole team behind this. So at this time, along that spirit, I'd like to bring Kelly Mullen up. Kelly Mullen is a member of our strategic planning implementation team within CSD. She's going to talk a little bit about the logistics behind what it takes to put on a university course. And then other team members from the CSD are going to come and talk to you about what it means to them and how they have dealt with their own teams and what CSD University has done. So, Kelly, first I've got to hand you this.
We'll be using these later.
And the mic.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning. I'm Kelly Mullen. I'm a land use planner in the department. And back in 2016, I was recruited to our strategic planning team for the department to help pull together CSD University. So I'm going to talk just a couple minutes about the logistics of taking CSDU from a somewhat nebulous idea to a reality. But before we get to that, CSDU, in a nutshell, it was designed as a 3-hour dynamic training seminar. We started off with 5 sessions over a 2-month period at 2 off-site locations. We had over 20 speakers and 250 attendees from the department. And the intent was really to graduate, so to speak, our entire CSD employee base. So those first 5 sessions were focused on that. And then the intent was to expand that out to 2 semi-annual sessions to get our new employees enrolled in that and go through CSDU as well. Now, there was a lot of planning to get up to that point. So first thing, as part of our due diligence, we went and talked to representatives from every single division within the department. And we wanted to find out from them what it was that they were interested in learning at CSDU. And what we found out was that they really just wanted to know a little bit more about what each division was responsible for. Who does what? Put faces with names. So that became our foundation, and we built on that. And we recognized that CSDU was really going to be a great opportunity to drive home this theme of a customer service culture that Dave was always talking about. And as part of that, we were super thrilled when Assemblywoman Jill Tolles agreed to sign on as the keynote speaker for our program to talk about the value of a service culture. And then it was necessary to start the real wrangling to get all of our speakers lined up for the program. Like Dave said, we knew that no one was going to want to listen to just a few people for 3 whole hours. So we recruited representatives from almost every program in the division. And they went and talked about their team and what they do and why it's important to the community. And then there were all those individual behind the scenes details that if attendees don't think twice about, or maybe are mildly surprised about, that it means that we did that right. And whether that was, putting together presentations and handouts, or setting up the rooms, or, just putting together the venues and making coffee, our team thought it through, the event team thought it through and made it happen. For me, CSDU really became this great opportunity to showcase and communicate all of the great work that our department is doing, whether that's just for the community or for the Washoe County organization as a whole. So because of that, we decided to extend the run of CSDU, and we are opening it up to all Washoe County employees. And that's going to happen again this fall. We invite you to attend. Please put it on your calendars, November 14th. All of you are invited. Please sign up through the Learning Center. You can find out more logistics there. And next, our division directors are going to talk a little bit about what CSDU has meant to them and their staff. Laura, would you like to kick it off? This is Laura Rose.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Rose, and I lead the admin team at the Ninth Street office. The CSD was formed during the recession, combining 5 county departments under one director, ultimately to save money. But that wasn't our end game. We saw an opportunity to do something really great. I was fortunate to work with a leadership team at the time who understood our greatest challenge that we faced was going to be our employees. They were anxious, they were skeptical, and some were downright scared. They were afraid they were going to lose. They were going to lose their jobs, their identities, their connection to the community that we all valued so much. So we knew we needed to take the time to listen and to really communicate. And that was going to be the key to overcoming these challenges. So somewhere along the line, we coined the phrase, all communication, all the time. And we did that. We did surveys and workshops and ambassador programs, peer-to-peer communication, fireside chats, focus groups, newsletters, intranet sites, cross-functional work groups. We communicated. And really, the CSD University is a culmination of all those communication efforts. Excuse me. we realized that reflecting back on the CSDU, we need CEUs. We continue to evolve, so we need to relearn. We need to learn about our work partners. We need to improve our communication styles and adapt and relearn and communicate and adapt. It's kind of like laundry. It never ends. Ben, come tell us what you think.
I know. I was going to bring my cheerleading skirt, but I forgot it at home. Anyway, it's great to be here. Appreciate all of you for attending, and I really do love the Impact Awards sessions that are happening. And at the CSD, we really believe that culture is important. To make sure that employees are recognized, to make sure that employees realize that they're important to the services they provide to the community. So these Impact Awards, and particularly what we're doing today, we get to showcase that what we've done with the CSD University and how it affected our department as a whole. So my name is Ben Hutchins, Finance and Customer Service Division Director for the Community Services Department. As you probably already figured out, they call us the CSD for short. It's a long word, Community Services Department. We used to be 5 departments. And with being 5 departments, each department had their own vision, their own way of doing business, their own culture. When we came together into one department, we recognized in order to provide the best services to the community and in order to be able to share resources in an effective manner, we had to be on the same page. We had to have one vision, one culture, one way of doing business. So in order to do that, the executive team decided we really need a guiding force to do that, which we decided we needed a strategic plan on a departmental level. So we didn't want to come up with a strategic plan ourselves because we recognized that in order for employees to feel valued, they had to be an integral part of that development. So we had a cross-section of employees put together numerous projects within this Community Services Department strategic plan. One of those projects was a CSD University. People recognized that many employees in the new, bigger department had very little knowledge of all the services that are provided within the Community Services Department. And we recognize also, in order to provide services internally and externally, our employees needed to be informed of all the different services that are provided. So as was mentioned earlier, it took a lot of effort to put this together, but it was a lot of fun. We involved all the employees with this process. We had numerous speakers. What we ended up doing was not only was there oral presentations, we had employees put together frequently asked questions and also contact information. Some people learn orally, some people learn written and other forms. So we had PowerPoint presentations, we had oral presentations, we had written communications, we had contact information. So when people saw, oh, you're the person that does that, oh, I've talked to you on the phone, it also increased the communication between people and relationships. Relationships are so important to provide good services to the community. So this was an extraordinary event that we had. We did 5 events originally, about 50 people each event, and then we've had 1 external. And hopefully you all show up to the next one that's coming up in November. So the other objectives that we had was to provide a sense of purpose. I mean, everybody needs a sense of purpose of what they're doing, and I loved what Donnie said earlier as far as the sense of purpose. That kind of puts it at bay. Sense of purpose, how do they fit into the department at large? What is their role when it comes to the department at large? How does that all fit together? Because somebody's out there doing the same thing every day. Well, okay, we have this bigger department. What does that mean for me? I think the CSD University really brought that to bear, really brought that home. So I was very excited after the first event because I thought, you know, this is a lot better than I thought. So I thank you, Kelly, for putting this all together because it was a lot of effort on her part. So she really did a great job. So when I asked my staff, you know, was this an event that was valuable? The feedback that I got was yes, that it was. They did not recognize certain people and what the services that they were providing. And what they recognized is that those relationships that were developed as part of that, you're mingling on the breaks during the events. Also, we gave opportunities for certain people to actually be speakers and to play leadership roles to provide information to the employees. And so that was a great opportunity as well. So overall, I think it was a great success. I love being a part of it, and hopefully you all attend. Without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Dwayne Smith.
I made a promise to Kathy that I wouldn't fall down and file a claim. So we'll all be careful, Kathy. So thanks, and also by way of introduction, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dwayne Smith. I'm the Division Director of Engineering Capital Projects, and of course we won last year's Impact Award for effective communication, and that really was the outcome of the CSD University. You've heard my other partners start to talk about this, and you know, it really focused on the educational elements and bringing our departments together and allowing us to have that unified message and understand what we do between both within the CSD, but also as we're branching out into other parts of the county. And it's so important and critical to have that joint knowledge in order to provide information to our customers, to help resolve our customers' issues, and be there for them when they have needs, when they have difficulties. But communication is very difficult, and effective communication is even more difficult. I was reading a little bit about communication, and you know, 40% of communication is what we hear. It's our intonation in our voice. It's the pacing of how we're delivering that message. About 50% of communication is based on those nonverbal cues, you know, our posture, eye contact, those types of things, and 10% of communication is actually the words. And so when we think about what we're learning in the CSD University within our groups and what the others do, you know, we're building that knowledge base, but then we're using effective communication skills then to share that information, to get that information out to our customers. So I was thinking, you know, we've done a lot over the last year. We've been implementing these skills, sharing these experiences. And it's great to see CSD staff embrace these opportunities. Not to pick on certain individuals, I see, but I'll pick on a couple. I see Bo Duke. He's our inspection supervisor. He's sitting out in the audience. And Megan Sizlove is another individual I'd just like to focus on for a moment. She's a project manager in our capital projects division. You know, I've seen both of these individuals use that information that they've learned in the CSD University when they're working with customers, both internal and external. And it takes that opportunity to learn, and then that way they have that as a basis so that they can not only work with those customers directly, but anticipate what the customer needs. And like I said, I've seen both of these individuals demonstrate these skills. The other thing that I've seen come out of this, and still focused on those two, is that I think that they've taken this opportunity and they've kind of branched down a little bit more. Megan, she's on the strategic planning implementation team, the SPIT team. Bo, after we sent him to Smile School, he was able to join the communications team. And now he's smiling. And so, you know, they've branched out. And I think that this is a reflection of gaining the confidence in the skills through things like the CSD University to build that foundation that allows them to participate even more within Washoe County and certainly, you know, be in a better position to help our customers with that unified message. So I'd really encourage all of you to practice and continue to implement your communication skills, your effective communication skills, and certainly get involved with these programs and with things within your departments and divisions. This is what makes us as great as we are. So with that, I'll turn it over to Moira Hauenstein. She is our Division Director of Planning and Building. Thank you.
I also am trying not to fall, however, I do have heels. Good morning, everybody. My name's Moira Hauenstein. I'm the Division Director for Planning and Building. Last year in February, we took two divisions and merged them together. We took what was planning and development and building and safety, and we merged them into what is currently known as planning and building today. So we are the younglings of CSD. And at that same time, we went through the exercise of building the CSD University, which was really good timing because it forced us to get together and figure out how to explain in plain English what we do. And our jobs are highly technical, so we sat down and started to look at our land use development codes, our building and safety codes, our public hearing processes, our applications. And, through that process, we realized that what we do is not easy. It's not easy to explain. And on the other hand, its complexity is actually directly proportional to the impact that it has on our customers. So we looked at all this technical stuff and we realized that it's important, it matters, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. Upholding the Washoe County adopted codes is a tough job. So through that exercise, we figured out that at the end of the day, we don't produce technical widgets for sale, we provide a service. So it's not about the technical stuff at all. And we sat down and figured out that our core business is exceptional customer service. That's our brand, is to speak with one voice and to promote it one customer, one interaction at a time. So if the regulatory stuff's always going to be here, when I'm not here, when you're not here, it's really about humanizing what we do and helping our customers get through it and overcome it in a way. So most of our external customers want their permits yesterday. Most of you know about this. The permit's not ready, call down to the county manager's office. Our internal customers and our partners have limited resources, and we lean on them to deliver. So it's not always easy to have a culture of yes. It's super hard. But the one thing we can do is get on the other side of the counter and sit down with our customers and make them feel like we're on your side. In fact, sometimes we sit down and try to figure out how to beat our own codes. I encourage my staff to do that every day, which is a fun exercise. So many of our customers feel that as government, we're too big to care. But in CSD, we feel that we're big enough to make a change and to speak with one voice, one loud voice. And personally, what I took home from CSD University was something that the guest speaker said. She said that it takes 12 positive interactions to undo one negative one. 12 to 1, that's an impressive statistic. I really think of that every day. So at the cost of sounding like a government bureaucrat, let's not do 12 times the work. Let's get it right the first time and speak with one voice. And let's double down when we have those really wonderful, challenging customers that show up. So the only reason I'm saying this is because of you guys. You matter, and what you do is super important, and we want you to know that we care. And with that, Eric, tell us what CSD University meant for your team.
Thank you, Moira. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Eric Crump. I'm the Operations Division Director with the Community Services Department. So this morning, you've heard a little bit about how the CSD was developed and how we've presented over the course of the last year. So I wanted to talk about not only what the CSD University meant to me and how it impacted me, but what the future might hold. We started presenting the CSD University over a year ago, and we've done several. And during each one of those CSD universities, we had some great dialogue and some great feedback. But in my opinion, probably the best one was the last one we did, and we did it here in this very room. And it was the first one that we opened up to all of Washoe County. So we had several departments represented. And it was when I was hearing those questions being asked by some of those different departments, it was clearly evident to me that the more we know about who and how services are delivered throughout Washoe County, it helps us all in our jobs and deliver the customer service that we should be delivering. So Washoe County provides some very diverse services throughout the county, all the way to the Oregon border down to Carson City. And in fact, there's some departments that deliver services outside of Washoe County. So it's really easy to understand how some of our employees have a very limited understanding of some of those services Washoe County does. I bet you every single person in this room can think about a department that you've often wondered what it is they do, right? I mean, I know I did when I first came to the county. What is it that that department does? So after the CSD universities, I would talk with both longtime employees and employees that were relatively new to the organization. And they all had one thing in common. They all agreed that knowing what others do in the department helps them in their role with Washoe County. So the big takeaway from me in all of this was realizing we aren't done, right? In fact, I think we have a tremendous opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to what might come out. So the CSD University won last year's Washoe Impact Awards for effective communication. And I think we can all agree that effective communication should never stop. It should continue to go on. I've heard others that are interested in developing something similar to the CSD for their respective departments. I also actually talked to one employee who had only been with the CSD for just a couple weeks before attending the CSD University. And I talked to him actually not too long ago when I was preparing for this, and I asked him, what the CSD University meant to him. And he said, I really wish that it would expand to include all departments, maybe be incorporated in new employee orientation. So, although I'm truly looking forward to continuing the CSD University, what I'm really excited about are what might come out of the CSD University and other areas of this organization. Like we see all over these days, services continue to be improved, especially in this day and age, and the county really shouldn't be any different. So, given we're talking about a university, it seems very fitting that I give you all a little bit of homework, right? So, I challenge each and every one of you to go back to your departments and talk to your colleagues and talk to your teammates and ask them how you can communicate more effectively within your departments and ultimately provide better customer service to Washoe County. So with that, I will turn it over to Assistant County Manager Dave Solero.
All right, I can see because the slides ran out, our 20 minutes is up, so I'm going to make this fairly quick. I don't want to bore everybody. So as you've heard, this is not the end. We hope that you have been inspired today to go back to your own organization and humanize the information that you have for your customer, to be casual, to be relatable. After all, with effective communication, we all are Washoe County. So with that, again, November 14th, sign up at the Learning Center. We have another session. You can learn all about every little, not widget, but every little detail about CSD University. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have related to effective communication, what you've heard today, anything really. Nancy. What are you doing with the t-shirts? So the t-shirts, again, a pep rally. Thank you. We're building the suspense. At the end of the questions, we will come out in the audience. We'll toss these out. These are fantastic road crew t-shirts. Whoever gets them will be a road employee for the day. Any other questions? There's got to be something. So the question was, how did the whole department have the time? One of the things that we realized, again, this started from the employees up. So when we got enough employees saying, hey, we really need to know what other people do, and I could see it from I walked through the hallway, someone on the phone, yeah, I don't know who does that. That type of thing. So we made a conscious effort to make sure that we gave the employees the time to do this at the expense of whatever it was they had to do during the day, because it was that important to us that they understood what the entire community services department does. We made the time. So thanks.
What mechanisms are you using to maintain that communication from top to bottom?
So mechanism for communication top to bottom. So as we said, we've got the strategic plan. It was a 3-year strategic plan. We're actually going through the process right now of updating that again. So we're reaching back out to the employees. We've got buzz sessions is what we're calling them. So that's a new initiative, a recycled initiative that we're starting, I believe, next week. Employee sessions again to get that information from the bottom up. We do monthly newsletters. We recognize our employees. Every time division directors, managers are out talking with people, trying to educate on any new changes that have occurred. So it's just an ongoing process to continue.
Is there something within your website that us from other departments are able to refer people to the right
So actually, I think the better approach for that is the implementation of Washoe 311, and they are countywide, trying to get up. They were actually up to speed on all of the different things that are going on within Washoe County. They understand the Community Services Department. They understand our FAQs. So if you get a call from someone, the best option is to get them to Washoe 311, either by dialing 311 directly or Washoe 311 at washoecounty.us. That way, if it's not specific to CSD, Cecilia and Maria can get them to the right place. Dexter. It was actually fairly easy because we were trying to pattern it towards the strategic plan of Washoe County. So, that was our end goal. We wanted to make sure that we were driving our work towards Washoe County's strategic plan. So a lot of the things we are doing within CSD mirror some of the same things that are going on organization-wide. We don't fit into that perfect little box, but again, it's the vision of our employees about what they feel is important for the services they're providing that started to drive that as well. All right, I think our time, one more from Chris. Well, this could be loaded.
Is CSD doing this solely based on volunteers who are interested in taking the class, or is it mandatory for current and new employees?
No, so that's a great question. We had this as mandatory for all of our existing employees, and we're making it mandatory for our new employees. Again, we feel it is that important that the employees are engaged enough to know all of the different things we do. The best example I had is I was out talking with some of the roads crews, and they told me, it's like, well, we need information. We need to know what we do because we get questioned all the time. I said, well, how does that impact? He said, because we can't hide behind a shovel. And so they need to have that tool to be able to say, I hear you. I understand you've got a question about Washoe County. That is something we do in our department, and I can get you to the right person, or I can get you to the right place within Washoe County. This really began, again, from the ground up. Those hard workers out there, our employees are so fantastic at the services they provide. They get beat up all the time, but they know at the end of the day that what they're trying to do really makes a difference. And so CSD University was a way to help show them all across our organization that they do make a difference. So with that, we'll end the rally. We'll head on up and make some road crew members for the day.
All right.
All right, thank you very much to the CSD team. It's a great presentation. Our next presenters represent a true multi-department agency collaboration, which is something that many of us in this audience can relate to here at Washoe County. The Department of Alternative Sentencing and the Human Services Agency launched the Sober 24 program more than a year ago. And since that time, this program has become a national model. Joe Ingraham and Amber Howell were in this implementation team, and the 2017 Washoe Impact Award winners for the integrity category, which states, we are dedicated to uncompromising honesty in our dealings with the public and each other in conformance with our code of conduct. With that said, please help me in welcoming Amber and Joe.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amber Howell. I'm the director for the Human Services Agency, and Joe and I are going to talk a little bit about how we got to where we were a year ago and what we did to do things a little bit different. On the child welfare side, we do drug testing every day for parents who have lost their children or are in the process of losing their children. And we got a bill from a lab that indicated that they were going to triple our costs for drug testing because the volume was so low. So we could have found the money in the budget and done things as we always did. But at the same time, we had the Crossroads program that was doing the alcohol and drug testing, and we were paying for the drug testing on the Crossroads side. Joe was doing drug testing in the Department of Alternative Sentencing, and Child Welfare was also paying for drug testing, which triples the amount for a county because each of us are paying a different bill. So what we decided to do was to become a centralized drug testing center ourselves. And we did that because, one, we wanted to lower the costs, but also we wanted to change the dynamic and the dial on substance abuse in our region. And to do that, you have to have not only drug testing, but you have to have resources and services so that people who are testing positive can have the information and support to get better and to get sober. So that's what we set off to do. We're going to go through some slides, and then we'll do some questions and answers. We didn't bring any props today. I'm sorry. I guess we could have thrown out drug test kits, but I don't think the county manager would have found that very funny. So. So one of the things that is very similar to our Crossroads program is how much the substance abuse impacts our community. It goes anywhere from law enforcement, fire department, medical professionals, hospitals, the jails, the courts. So it really has a wide net of impact throughout our community. Oh, did I go backwards? So just as a frame of reference, to do nothing for someone who's addicted to substances or suffering from a mental health disorder, these are the costs per client per year. Jail is about $100 per day, jail bookings. Treatment is about $100 a day. REMSA is over $1,200 for people who find themselves in that situation, and first responders. So what we found is by doing nothing, it's actually very costly. And so not only can you have good outcomes, but it can be at a lower cost. These are some of our statistics that we started looking at. And what you will find is that 52% of the clientele within the Sober 24 program had a history or were in some type of program in the past. So over half of our participants had already tried treatment before, and it wasn't successful. We also have a significant amount of arrests, which we showed you on the previous slide of how costly that is to our community. And total, in the first year, there was 451 arrests made for the clients that we were serving in the Sober 24 facility. These are some of our other statistics as far as population, and why we show these is it's important to understand the clientele that we're working with, their socioeconomic status, their education, income, all kinds of things that help us understand the population that we are striving to help so that we build those resources for them. You will see that most of them were either not a graduate or had a high school diploma. Some of them had college. But 50% of them at least had substance abuse at the time, and then you'll see the race up there. One of the most interesting things that we found, however, was that fortunately for our clientele, almost 50% of them had family, which tells us that there are supports within their family network that we could really capitalize on if we could just provide services to them to help get them to a better place. Only 6% of them were homeless, which is something, this is a little bit different than what we would see in our Crossroads program. These individuals do have a home, they do have family support, and they just need an additional level and layer to get them to the next level. This is probably one of the most exciting statistics that we have found so far. So out of the UAs that we have done in the last year, only 12% tested positive. As far as drug testing goes, only 5.5% tested positive for substances. So this is showing a dramatic decrease in the substance use within our community. I think more relatable and more of an impact for Washoe County is the number of alcohol-related fatalities. In 2016, there were 24 fatalities due to alcohol-related accidents. And in 2017, there were only 7, which is a 70% reduction in the number of fatalities because Sober 24 was implemented. So we're very proud of those statistics, and we're looking to continue to grow in the next year. We didn't realize how important this program is going to be now that we're starting to embark and help a much bigger population, which is the homeless population in Washoe County and the addiction crisis that we are facing. So this will be a foundational program for us to build from as we increase Crossroads and Washoe County becomes a very active leader in the homeless crisis. I will end with my presentation's a little bit shorter than Dave's, but I will end with there was a time when we could have just wrote the check and taken the increase in the substance abuse lab bills, and we could have done the same thing. But DAS mission is about diversion and making people better, and so is HSAs. And we believe that parents want to be there for their kids, and we believe that nobody wakes up in the morning and wants to be addicted. And we believe that they want to get better. And so we're going to help them do that so that we can reduce the number of children in foster care, that we can reduce the number of fatalities that Washoe County experiences as far as alcohol-related crashes, and that people can find homes and have their family support with them and live sober, healthy futures. And so we're honored to have this award. The outcomes have been phenomenal. We have received national recognition, and we hope to continue to report out on all of the successes that we've had, and we look forward to serving another 500 people in the next year and changing their lives. So thank you very much.
You know, I always defer to Amber because she's such an eloquent speaker. So one of the things I just wanted to kind of bring up is the concept of Sober 24 came up a few years ago. It was created a few years ago. We went to South Dakota and saw there, they have this program called 24/7. So we took a team up there with HSA and DAS was represented. We had the Sheriff's Department there. And we viewed that program, and it was a drug and alcohol testing center. What we quickly came to realize is, you know, if we bring that model back here to Washoe County and wrap these services around the drug testing center, it was going to take it to another level, and we've seen huge successes. You know, following the Crossroads model, taking it to the Sober 24 environment just offers the people that have these drug addictions, mental health issues, the services that they need while they have their sober living environment. So I can tell you that our partnership has been dynamic. That's what's so encouraging and engaging about this program and the award ceremony is, you know, there used to be a time where each department was a silo, and we're seeing those silos break down in these partnerships like CSD and our program. It's just amazing the work that we can do to join resources. We're just very happy to be a part of this, and we're going to continue. One of the things I would encourage you all to do is out in the foyer, there's little quotes that people have put out there, and I saw the ones that we actually said. And you know, when you relate it to integrity, there's really no wrong way to do the right thing. I've always said there's no right way to do the wrong thing as far as the integrity thing. But guys, I'd encourage you to take a look at some of those quotes. There's some brilliant people here. We wouldn't be who we are without our team, though, and that's the really driving force here. Our team is what makes us the county so successful. So I thank you all for the jobs you do. And anyways, is there any questions? Okay. You know, what's really kind of funny is we've always been very reactive. You know, we like to slow down a little bit and actually get some concrete procedures and processes. So what we did is we decided to do what do we call it? Marathon of tours, right? So we took the month of, I believe, May and did tours at the facility. NHTSA came in, who's the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, the national. They came in, the regional director came in and viewed the program. He brought his boss in, and then they brought the representative from Washington, D.C. down to see the program, and they were just blown away with what we have accomplished in such a short period of time. Again, taking that drug testing model, wrapping those services around it, it was something that no one's ever seen before, and to us, it just made sense. So we were fortunate to go back to San Antonio. We were nominated for a national award, a life-saving award, and we actually won the program, or won the award, which was what an honor for Washoe County. And again, to be a part of that, we all need to be proud of that. So in the beginning, we put a pilot program together. We were using one of the courts here as a pilot program, so we had about 100 participants. I'd like to backtrack a little bit on that too. So we go up and see these programs in these other jurisdictions, and we kind of come up with a concept. You know, here's what we want to implement. Here's how we're going to go about it. We're going to need some time to put some things in place. The very next day, the judge that was at the conference called me when I was on my connector flight back to Reno to create this program. And he goes, hey, by the way, and he's on the bench. He calls me up and he says, hey, we got our first person. I'm like, excellent. When did they get out of jail? He goes, no, they're going to be there tonight. I'm like, they're going to be where tonight? So, I mean, we've been running from day one. But the clientele comes from, there's several prongs. One is from the justice system, from the courts. They're sentenced to us. The second is from CPS. Anybody that's involved with custody issues, we test them. And we also do what we call courtesy tests, other jurisdictions, Carson, Douglas, California. We want to offer the service to everybody. Our recidivism rate right now, we do a 3-year recidivism. So after the first year, we have roughly 1,200 cases right now. After the first year of successfully graduating the program, it's between 9 and 11%. Second year, it bumps up to 18 to 20, and the third year goes about 24 to 27, which is phenomenal. If you look nationally, recidivism rates are pushing 48, 50%. So we're very happy. And you know, again, I said this earlier, but we couldn't do this without our team. It takes a special person to do this type of work, as well as HSA. You know, there's a lot of darkness and a lot of negative things that we see, but to have that type of success rate and see people actually changing their lives and getting the tools to be a productive citizen, be reunited with their kids, be a taxpayer, be a giver, not a taker. You know, it's very, very rewarding. And again, we couldn't do it without the team. We got a phenomenal team at DAS and with HSA's partnership.
What's been the reaction from some of the people who use the service? You know, I've heard a little bit, but do you get to hear from them on how this
We do.
available 24 hours has changed?
Well, you know, from my cop perspective, my thing was to eliminate any excuses. And we heard that a lot, you know, because we'd only test from 8 to 3. And then we do field activity at night. What we've done now is we're a 7-day-a-week operation. We start at 5:30 in the morning until 8:30 at night, 7 days a week, weekends, holidays. So there's no, you know, I'm working, I'm looking for a job. We take that away. As people progress, and you can imagine people that come to us aren't really happy to see us, but as they progress through the program, they're gaining those resources, they're gaining those tools. You see that shift. And I can tell you, we have interaction with people that have successfully completed often. And that's what we tell them. After they're done, they're not done. If they need someone to talk to, come talk to us. You know, this is kind of intimidating for people in the system, but we want to work with them and give them the tools that they need to successfully complete. And we want to make it this is our community, right? We all raise our families here. So that's our drive, is to make it a better community, offer whatever we can to that addicted person. Okay. We have actually 3 locations, alternative sentencing. We work out of the Mills Lane Justice Center. We work out of Sparks Justice, and we work out of Sober 24 now, is over on 6th and Montello. Employees, we've got 9 full-time staff, and I would say, as of today, maybe 27, 28 intermittent staff. It's challenging to operate a business 7 days a week with not full-time staff. We're not there yet. We're trying to, and that's one thing I need to say. This program was based on a self-sustaining model, and I can tell you it was I was very excited when I came back to the county and talking to the county managers and the budget and saying, hey, this is going to be a self-sustaining program. It's going to be self-funded. Well, I quickly found out that it wasn't, because our demographics were far different than the place that we went and viewed. We had a high drug population here, so they didn't have the funds to support it. We're working on that, but it's, yeah, there's quite a few employees that are, and it's challenging with all the different locations. Absolutely. I would love to hook you up with our administrative supervisor, Rhonda Carrillo. We do have a website, and again, 311 is an awesome resource. If you can't navigate through our website, we're working on that. Yes.
What are things that you do within your department to recharge and rejuvenate people because it's a tough place to work, I'm sure?
You know, that's come up over the months. I'm very fortunate, again, we have some stellar teammates. I mean, they put their heart and souls into it. I've got 2 intermittents that have been with us for 9 years. What we try to do is you know, the communication is huge. We've talked about having like a retreat, trying to figure that out. It's very difficult, you know, but it's important. Like Dave was saying earlier, we can't do what we do without our team. So I think it's imperative that we, you know, we stop and get everybody involved, have our round tables. Hey, this is a safe place, guys. Let's talk about things. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What's our vision? You know, not only today, but 5 years from now. Again, we got some great people. And I do see the burnout, absolutely. And I try to talk to everybody often and get feedback and not just hear it, try to do something with it. So.
I would highly encourage those retreats for you all.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a good team. And again, that's one of the hard things with our intermittents is you get some really great talent. And if there's no positions available, they move on, unfortunately. Good for them, great for them. Challenging. You know, we're seeing a little bit longer graduation timeline with the drug population. You know, the DUIs, the alcohol DUIs, you know, if it's like a second, maybe 15, 18 months in there, in that time range. Drugs are a little bit different, a little bit harder. You got to break that cycle and get the tools, the proper tools to the folks. But again, without, you know, we've got some great tools with Sober 24, with HSA's involvement, with social workers and all. It's a case by case. You know, the old thing of 21-day treatment facilities, that's kind of gone out. You know, that's not very, it hasn't been super successful. So it's a case by case plan.
I would also add that one of the things that this facility has really helped us with is we currently have a backlog and a waiting list for our Crossroads program. So what this has really helped us with is if there's a judge that wants to get somebody into treatment or somebody is waiting for a Crossroads bed, this can be something that they can do while they wait. For a Crossroads bed, which is very helpful, so they start engaging in the program, see somebody every day, get more familiar with the process. And on the reverse, once they are done with the Crossroads program, Sober 24 is now available for aftercare. So once they leave the Crossroads program, they can still come and receive drug testing and support, and that's their network, that's their support for them. So it's actually helped us for the front end and the back end as a catch-all during their stay in and out of Crossroads. Anything else? We're going to just show you a video to close this out. So the vision really is about having a central regional drug testing center that all of the courts and all of the governmental agencies can use in one location.
It's successful because jail doesn't fix the problem. This allows them to get out of jail and still get on with their daily lives, but they're learning how to do it sober.
You're trying to expand their success when they're adjudicated from court, when they graduate from the program. Right now, for example, one of the reasons why they asked us to be heavily involved in it was because of our success at Crossroads with the drug and alcohol testing. For example, we tested 94,000 breath tests last year, and we only had 14 failures. Here at Sober 24 is running a 98% success rate.
Every single time that I was in jail, I was like, I'm never gonna do anything ever again. Like, I swear, like, I'll stay clean, I'm never gonna drink, I'm never gonna do drugs, and it never worked. Now I'm like a huge success. I just graduated last Monday, no more probation. I was on probation for 2 years. I've been clean for almost 11 months now, too.
And that's huge. If you can keep them sober, put them back to work, and they're paying their taxes, that's proactive law enforcement to prevent a crime from even occurring.
The greatest benefit is just sobriety within our community.
Clients deserve second chances. They want to live sober lives. They need help in getting there. And so this is really our gift and payback to the community to say, we want to help, we have resources, we can do this. We can give you a healthier, brighter future, and we can have safe, secure, and healthy communities, and this is one small step to getting us there.
All right, thank you, Amber and Joe, for a great presentation. We're going to take a little break. Just a couple reminders. If you have not checked in yet, please do that. Now's a great time while you're on break, at least before you leave today. We're going to take a 15-minute break, so come back at about 10:20. And when we come back, we will hear about our Quality Public Service winner and our keynote, Kim Cook from the Burning Man organization. Have a good break. All right, everybody, we're about to get started again, so if you don't mind taking your seats, eat your donuts. All right, everybody, please find your seats. We're going to continue with our program. Just asked to give a quick reminder, if you wouldn't mind making sure your cell phones are on silent during the rest of the presentations. Quality public service. Its value resonates with all of us. It's at the core of every commission agenda item. The clearing of a roadway, evacuation of animals during a fire, response to a sheriff's deputy to a 911 call, approving plans for new construction, or unification of parents and their children at the Family Engagement Center. The county exists to serve the public. We put the needs and expectations of citizens at the center of everything we do and take pride in delivering services of the highest quality. Which leads us to our next speakers, who won the 2017 Washoe Impact Award for the Child Advocacy Center. Here to tell us more about this amazing facility and program is Julie Hicks and Julie Scow. I'm sorry, Nicole Hicks and Julie Scow, excuse me. Let's pay that.
We're going to make sure we know how to use this. I'm not really used to talking into a microphone, so I'm not going to. I'm Nicole Hicks. My name got changed about 3 seconds ago to Julie, which is fine. I'm the executive director of the Washoe County CAC, but I'm also a district attorney and I prosecute crimes against children. I have to use it. I just got yelled at. Okay. I'm going to give Julie the clicker, but I feel like I sound so funny on a microphone. The CAC is a multidisciplinary team approach to child abuse cases. Our mission is to provide advocacy to the children, but it's also to make sure that we investigate and we prosecute child predators. And we're doing that in a child-friendly environment. So I don't know if any of you have been to the CAC. If you have, raise your hands. Oh, there's quite a few of you. So what it used to be like is when a child made a disclosure of abuse, they would go to the police station, they would go down to social services, they would go to different facilities and talk about the abuse. But now what happens is we all come together at the CAC, and the kid or the child or the adult only has to tell their story one time. And what that does is we hope that it minimizes trauma to the child. The other piece of the CAC that not many people know is that we do all sexual assault exams, whether it's a child or whether it's an adult. So we're providing this, not only a child-friendly environment, but just a soothing environment for all sexual assault victims. The beautiful thing about the CAC is we're coming together as a community to respond to child abuse. Not every case that comes to the CAC is prosecuted, and not all of them should be. But the ones that need to be prosecuted, they're prosecuted to the fullest extent. And I was talking about the CAC just yesterday, and the three things that I try to remember about why I do what I do, because people ask me all the time, how do you keep your heart taken care of in these types of cases? And the one thing is I know that we're stopping abuse. So once we get that perpetrator arrested, there's no more abuse from that one perpetrator, and that's a huge piece for the CAC. But we're also giving kids a voice when they don't usually have one, and that's another piece. These kids are terrified to testify, but at the same time, once they get that voice, it's important to them, and they're glad they get to do it. And lastly, the perpetrators are going away for a really long time. And that, again, ensures there's no more abuse, but it also ensures that there's no more victims. So that's a big piece of the CAC. In most CACs throughout the country, it has an investigative piece. So it's not just about trying to heal the victim, it's also about prosecution. Will you go to the next slide for me? Is it coming up? There it is. Julie is our law office manager, or was our law office manager at the DA's office. And Julie's piece at the CAC when we formed about 4.5 years ago was so significant because she really helped me get all the partnering agencies together. She helped me do protocols. She helped me just paint. I mean, it was just such a huge process. So Julie is an advocate of the CAC, and she's just a pioneer of children's services because she did put her heart and soul into the CAC, and she still does. Do we go back one more time? Yeah. So our stats for 2017, there we go. We served a total of 1,500 families and some change. So what that means is we provided forensic interviews, we provided medical exams, we provided therapy. And again, these are all different partnering agencies. Those are the services that are provided at the CAC. It's a significant number, but we know that 1 out of every 4 girls is a victim of sexual abuse by the time they're 18, and 1 out of every 6 boys. So this is just kind of scratching the surface of abuse in our community. We did over 387 forensic interviews, which again is the interview of a child that reports abuse. That's about 32 interviews a month. We conducted about 777 medical exams. Now that's any child that's removed from a home in the community. They come to the CAC and they see Nurse Becky, which I know many of you know Nurse Becky. She's the best. So they come in for that, but they also come in for their sexual assault exams and what we call CARES exams. Sexual assault exams, there's some evidence collection in some of them, but some of them are just, to make sure that children understand that their bodies are okay after so much abuse. We served a total of 149 individuals in counseling, so that doesn't mean they only came 149 times. They come numerous times, 4 to 8 times to the CAC for therapy. That program is totally funded, well, not completely, but mostly funded by grants. We have just a little bit of county funds for that, for the overlap. So, and we received 49 life sentences in 2017. Now I'm going to tell you that 32 life sentences just went up for this year, so I think we're at about 42 again. So this year alone, we've served 1,200 families, conducted 314 forensic interviews. Now I'm going to tell you, this is such a significant piece because we only have 1.5 forensic interviewers. So that means that 1.5 people are doing all of those interviews of children, which is really not the way we should be doing it, but it's still responding to these cases in a more effective way. So then the detectives, myself, another prosecutor, medical, social services, therapy, victim advocacy, we can all watch the interview as it's taking place. So the detectives can focus on what they're going to say to the suspect. I can focus on my case, and we can focus on different things while the child's being interviewed by a trained forensic interviewer. Again, the medical exams, it's a humongous number, the amount of kids Becky's seeing. And there's a new nurse there, that's Nurse Christina, so she's jumping into the CAC response. And we, again, served about 149 clients in the counseling services and the life sentences. I'm going to turn it over to Julie to talk a little bit.
Okay. Nicole said that I was the former law office manager for the district attorney's office, and together back in 2014, I want to kind of go backwards a little bit to how we got started at the new Child Advocacy Center in 2014. We had this opportunity to use the old McGee building and turn it into the new Child Advocacy Center. But what we really focused on over our time between now and then was dedicating ourselves to supporting the care for child victims of abuse during their transition and recovery. We really try to get out in the community and tell people what's going on out there. You know, children are so important and they're our future. Let's just go off. Okay. Anyway, so we try to get out there and talk about this with people so that they understand what Nicole was talking about. We don't want to re-traumatize children. They've already been through something, so they can go to this center one time and see these different people that make a difference for taking that change in their life to make it better. I'm no longer an employee, but I still dedicate myself partly to working with Nicole and the DA's office to make sure that we get the message out on what we do out there. The public service involved in the nature of our business, I guess, is making children's lives better. So that was one thing I wanted to say. I'm trying to think. The other thing that Nicole talked about was those partners. It's pretty unique that we are partnering with all these different agencies. Here, you can try to find that slide. It's the second to the last. Those partners that we have out in the community include public and private partners. We work with Crisis Call Center. They help us at times. Law enforcement, so important to what we do here. Human Services Agency, we really want to make sure they get credit for this. You know, their unit is in the building too, the social workers, and they're really, really instrumental in helping us to make sure that those children have that counseling services. Just think about it. It's not a happy day when you're there, but you get to talk to somebody who's just going to be nice to you. And you can talk about whatever you want, to talk about. You don't have to talk exactly about what just happened. So those things, again, they're improvement in a person's life. And I think those were the key things that I wanted to touch on here. I think if we should just, yeah, here's Nicole, and then we'll have a video.
I think what Julie's saying too is our partnering agencies are so huge. The DA's office responds to the prosecution of the cases, but our cases are made stronger and better because we're responding to child abuse as a team. Before, it used to be so siloed that law enforcement would respond and they would provide their part, social services would provide their part, victim advocacy would provide their part, but it was separate. And now what we do is we come together for case reviews and we come together to talk about the cases. How can we make them stronger? How can we ensure that the victim's getting the treatment he or she needs? How can we help the parents or the non-offending caregivers or the siblings? So we're responding at all levels to these child abuse cases. And I hope everybody believes that as a team, you're smarter. And that's what I've seen. There's lots of things that social services offers that maybe we didn't think about, or victim advocacy offers, or mental health. So that's why the CAC is so successful. We do it in a child-friendly environment, but we do it as a team response. So these partnering agencies, without them, it wouldn't matter if we just had the building. We have to have them in order to do this and to effectively prosecute and investigate these crimes and to make sure that the kids are receiving the treatment that they need. So we're supposed to make this questions. We're going to show our video here in a second, but does anybody have any questions about the CAC or how we're responding to child abuse? There's got to be someone. Oh, of course. This is our new law office manager, Lori Freilich, for the DA's office. So she's my mole in the audience. Or is that right, mole? No, so that's a great point. So we also serve rural counties. So we're trying to make sure that rural counties can respond to child abuse out there with the effective means of using a forensic interviewer. So their cases are becoming stronger as well. They'll drive in from Lyon County, Carson. I mean, the list is endless where they will come to bring their kids to the CAC come from. And they also come to the CAC for those SART exams. So that's a huge piece because they do look to the CAC for some help and for some guidance, and their cases are just a bit stronger. Okay, we're gonna play our video, and if no one has any questions. I hate this video, just so you know. No offense, Mr. Slaughter. What it is, it's a multidisciplinary team approach to child abuse cases. We focus on the investigation, we focus on the prosecution, but we also focus on the healing of the victim.
A place where a child can tell their story one time and doesn't have to relive the trauma by multiple interviews and having to relive that.
We are giving children a voice that are abused. Whether they see abuse, whether they're physically abused, we are their voice going forward. That is our vision for the CAC. I mean, the benefits are just endless. There's over 800 CACs throughout the country. So Washoe County is, so there's over 800 CACs throughout the country. The first CAC was started in the 80s. So we are a bit behind times, which is sad for our kids and our response to child abuse, but we are a really good functioning CAC. So we received our accreditation in 2000 and sometimes I forget what year we're in now, but probably about a year and a half ago. So we're an accredited CAC, which means we meet certain standards for National Children's Alliance. So we're a pretty good CAC, especially how new we are. A lot of the way we are responding, it's as if we've been in existence for much longer, is what our accrediting kind of body has told us. But we're behind the times still, which is, you know, our rural counties should have little CACs set up. We only have about 2 CACs in Nevada. They have multidisciplinary team approaches in some of the rural counties, but not as many as the state of Nevada should have because of the size. But we're, you know, like I said, I usually know this date off the top of my head, but in the 80s, his name was Bud Kramer, and the first CAC was established in Huntsville, Alabama. And they went through all the growing pains that we have gone through to be established. So, oh, more questions, go ahead. Brought. So our questions, how do child victims get to the CAC? So it's still through investigation. So it's either law enforcement or social services. You still have to make a report of abuse, and then that's how that's the vehicle that starts to get there. And that's for forensic interviewing, but also sexual assault exams. Go ahead. Yes. So we're always looking for private partnerships. When we first got established, I just wanted people to come. I wanted our outside agencies to bring their kids there because I thought it was such a better way of doing these cases. Now we're more established. We have medical, we have therapy. Those partnerships we are trying to expand into the community. So we're working on that right now, like actually this week. So soon we'll be revealed with that, hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed. I think go ahead.
Do you ever get children that you find out through the interview that are not telling the truth and they're just making stuff up because they're mad at a parent or a step-parent?
So we don't really try and say, oh, you're not telling the truth, little 7-year-old. But what happens is the case falls apart. So we do an effective investigation into the case. So let's say Susie told that she was abused by her dad, and mom's the one that made the allegations. Susie couldn't explain it in the forensic interview. And then when we tried to follow up on the other pieces of potential evidence, it didn't pan out. So yes, now again, usually it's an adult that's putting a child up to not telling the truth, and we can have an effective investigation to make sure that that's identified. And what you'll see is kids are not effective liars, and they just can't keep a lie for very long. Almost like within the hour, it starts to fall apart. Now, there's a difference between not telling the truth and just not knowing the exact details of the abuse because it happened for 10 years, it happened when you were 5, and it ended when you were 12. And you know, a lot of people expect those victims to go, oh, well, it happened on September 10th, 2012. Well, that's not what happens. But yes, I think another piece of the CAC is we're able to identify false allegations, and they don't go farther past the CAC investigation stage. But what we can do is we can provide them therapy. So if there's a kid saying something like this is happening, then we usually say, well, maybe they need some help. So we can do that too. Go ahead. Well, you know, I'm not a therapist, but we have trained therapists that deal with trauma, whether it's trauma from a divorce that went bad or trauma from actually being a victim, and they'll deal with the child and that type of trauma in therapy. Do we prosecute them? No. That's not something that is really prosecutable, but we can also provide avenues for therapy for that parent that may have made that allegation. So again, the CAC, it's a multidisciplinary team approach. So we have lots of different resources. And you never want to say, oh, you're lying. I mean, that's just not an effective way of dealing with anybody. But we can say, oh, you know, there's this therapist that you may want to talk to. We have group therapy sometimes. And so we just try and address it as a team and see what the best approach is. Go ahead.
You said that you feel like that you're behind the times right now. What do you need from us?
Well, I need money. So if you have any, you can leave some in a bucket on the way out. I'm just kidding. You know, it's really a complicated theory, not theory, but complications about creating a budget. So we started the CAC not really understanding how needed it really was. And so we had this DA who was hard charging, and he wanted to get the CAC going, and I thank God that he did, because we've been able to change the lives of so many since then. But we didn't realize there were going to be over 387 forensic interviews in a year. No one realized that. So now we're trying to make up for how it should have been when we first became established, a budget, right? Because right now, the DA's office is funding a lot of it, and our partnering agencies are helping. But we didn't create a budget, hire the appropriate people, then find a building. We created a building, and then we just put people in there. And we peeled people off from different agencies, and we piecemealed it together. And that's not the most effective way. But again, you know, I say that, and then I remember we got over 40 life sentences last year. We stopped numerous pieces of abuse. So I guess as a whole, knowing about the CAC, telling people about us, understanding the way the system works in the sense that now we have this place that kids can go when they do make a disclosure of abuse. That's why we come to things like this. Well, we come because we were honored to receive an award last year, but we also come because we want you to know so you can tell your neighbor who can then tell their teacher who, you know, we get out in the community, but not as much as we would hope.
So you asked how you could help, and what Nicole just said, I'll sum it up. And I want to go back to somebody else asked a question about our partnerships, but that ambassadorship from all of you, if you can retell the story about, I guess, you know, our quality public service, but it's important, and sharing that with other people so that they know what we're doing. Sometimes our subject matters about as popular as a snake in a sleeping bag, but it's real. And so we do have we have a board. It's called the Friends of the Child Advocacy Center, and they're community leaders that are partners. We have a really strong board, and we're meeting and we're trying to answer that question. They're asking us, what can we do for you? And right now, it is that. It's getting out there. We need ambassadors to talk about it, that we're putting things in place to go forward for these children, but also they're helping us to we went through our strategic planning process. They're looking at best practices. We're looking at the nation, at who has great CACs and what do we have the means to put in place here. So I think that's the answer that we'd like you to know is just your ambassadorship. Just tell people what you know, because you'd be surprised how it impacts people's lives, and it's kind of a quiet subject, and that's okay, but they need help. And what Nicole was talking about, being able to offer them counseling services, that's really important. So that's what I wanted to add on to that.
So some of the CAC services go up to their 18th birthday, but we also do adults that have diminished capacity. So we'll provide forensic interviewing services for that as well. But all of our sexual assault exams, again, you could be 100, you could be 2, they come through the CAC. So adult victims of sexual assault go to the CAC for their exams. They don't get forensic interviews there. They still deal with the detectives through the course of their cases, so it kind of depends. Sometimes we'll staff a case and they'll say this is long-term abuse, and now let's say the victim's 20, but we'd really like to interview her at the CAC. We just say yes, because we can in that regard. There's no reason why we wouldn't. So. Go ahead.
You said you offer services to rural communities within Nevada. Do you also do rural communities on the other side of the border, like in Truckee and Sierra County?
Yes. Yes, so all of our sexual assault exams really do spread, our services spread pretty broad. If someone calls me and says, I'm in Sacramento, I would say, go to your Sacramento CAC. There's a Roseville one, and I would try and guide them to a closer CAC. But I guess one of my problems is I don't really say no. So if someone wants to come, I'm like, sure, let's provide them a service because it will benefit them. So it just depends. We'll try and hook them up in their area if there's something closer to them. But we do outside assist all the time for all these different counties. Oh. And we do tribal as well, and we do FBI. So I'm sure I'm missing something that we provide for some county or for a different agency. Go ahead. So I think a lot is being done. I think there's probably more that can be done. We have different nonprofits throughout Washoe County and northern Nevada that are trying to go into our school district to respond to prevention. But that's a big deal, trying to get into the school district to do maybe an assessment tool or something like that to say, what's going on in your home early. But the newer, I guess it would be, you know how we used to, when we were kids, have stranger danger? Well, it's not so much that anymore. What's in our school district now is loved ones. How do you take care of your body and eliminate kind of, I don't want to say bad touches because that's not the right word anymore either, but there's different nonprofits that are going through the school district to get in to hopefully help with prevention tools. We are still responding to the staggering number at the CAC, so we're trying to respond a little bit more effectively to the numbers that we are seeing, so then we can create a prevention tool specifically within the CAC that we haven't been able to provide yet. Gloria, do you have anything to add to that? So Gloria is our program assistant at the CAC, and she's been helping me do some research into a little bit of prevention right now. Is there anything? So if you didn't hear Gloria, she just said they're updating the SHARE program, trying to, and it's a bigger process than people understand. Updating anything in the school district is a process. So the SHARE program, they're updating that, and then they're starting in the high schools and kind of working their way down. Hopefully they'll get to a point where they start really early, kindergarten, right? Because that's where we see the abuses starting, is as early as 5 or 6 years old. So there's a book that we give out at the CAC, and it says, "Those are my private parts." And I want to say it was written by an author here in Washoe County, a school teacher, and it really gives kids a voice about their body and saying no and protecting themselves, but also understanding they're trying to protect themselves from people they loved. So most people don't realize that 95% of the victims are victims by someone they love. Neighbors, step-parents, parents, uncles, aunts, so loved ones. So, one of the things when you ask me that, what can we do? You need to talk to your kids and make sure that you're being smart about protecting them. And I'm not saying everybody go home and lock them in a room, even though that's what I do, but talk to your kids, make sure they have a voice with you, and then know that kids, they just don't tell right now. That's just what happens. And it can be as simple as, if you tell, you're going to get in trouble. And as a parent, we just don't get that. And that's the staggering number. The majority of kids do not disclose abuse. So, but talk to your kids. Make sure they know that you're a safe place. Make sure they know that it's their body, protect their body. They can say no to whoever. I don't make my child go give someone a hug. I don't, right? I'm not going to force them to go give someone a hug. And that might seem a little harsh, but you just have to be real aware of what's going on with your children, and talk to them. So, anything else? Okay, we're going to leave you. Now you get to probably talk about something much, much lighter.
Nice try. That's because I got your name wrong. You can steal mine. All right. Thank you, Nicole and Julie, and everyone who is changing the way we respond to our child victims at our community, at the Child Advocacy Center. And now for our keynote speaker. Kim Cook is the Director of Art and Civic Engagement from the Burning Man organization. Kim works with artists and community leaders around the world on innovative projects that celebrate the intersection between arts, culture, and civic engagement. The teams that Kim leads and manages work with artists and community leaders to create opportunities for creativity to flourish. She's also working with Washoe County on the Washoe Art Trail project, which is a 200-mile trail with public art commissioned for 2 new installations, the first at Crystal Peak Park and going all the way to Gerlach, opening next summer. The art trail will create a system of wayfinding that generates stories of place and memory that include both art installations and augmented reality-based trailblazing. The employees and community leaders who have worked with Kim on the art trail projects and other events all say the same thing. She is one of the most dynamic and interesting speakers and storytellers they've ever heard. We're incredibly honored to have Kim here today to do the same for us and our employees. And with that, I'd like to introduce our keynote today, Kim Cook.
Hello, beautiful people. They lied. I'm not very inspirational at all. I don't know what I'm going to say, and I'm terribly embarrassed to be here. Sort of. No, actually, I think that's a little loud. Are you on sound? Can you bring it down a little? Thank you. I'm really pleased and honored to be here, and I feel like I have 3 responsibilities. I have a responsibility to Burning Man because I represent Burning Man, and so certainly I should speak to our work. I think I'd be in trouble if I went back to San Francisco and I said nothing about Burning Man. I also think I have a responsibility to you, to the Washoe County employees, to the people who live here, to offer you something, hopefully of value, with my time and my words. And I have a responsibility to myself. How do I tell the truth? How do I anchor myself in my belief system? How do I share myself with you? So those are the 3 places I'm grounding myself in right now, is like, how do I honor all of those responsibilities in the time that I have? I also very much believe in telling people at least a little bit about the journey we're about to go on so that we can practice consent. You can agree to go on the journey with me instead of being pulled along by me. So what I plan to do with my time is, first I'm going to, after this little introduction, go back to some of what we were just listening to. And then I am going to talk a little bit about Burning Man. But before that, I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about yourselves. I'll tell you how. Then I have a little exercise that I'm hoping you will all agree to participate in, some of you will find that comfortable, some of you will find that uncomfortable, and you can opt out, but I'm thinking it's going to be good. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I see and hear in terms of Washoe County and your work, and a little bit about myself. And then I think we're going to close our eyes and breathe and do a little visualization, and then I'll be done. Does that sound acceptable? All right. I want to thank John Slaughter for inviting me, Nancy Lewinhagen, Maura Hauenstein, and Gabrielle Enfeld, and many others who have been doing work with me for inviting me to be here. And as I said, I actually would like to stop for a moment and ground ourselves in what it was that we just heard, because I could feel the profound empathy in the room for the young people that we were just contemplating, the experiences that they have. The one woman who said that 1 out of 4 for girls and 1 out of 6 for boys is a staggering statistic, and I would agree. So maybe just to honor the space around that, like, could we just sort of take in a breath, think is the wrong word, feel with our hearts that compassion that we feel for the children who suffer, imagine them being well and healthy and happy in the ways we would want, and then just sort of exhale out together this kind of wish for the common good. So if you don't mind, just sort of breathe in. And breathe out. Thank you. So if you don't mind, I would like you to move your bodies a little bit. It's also going to be a little bit of a poll, so you don't have to run around the room. But if you have been to Burning Man, would you please stand up? Thank you. You may sit down. I'm sorry I outed you. If you have encountered a burner on their way to Black Rock City, please stand up. Oh God, Trader Joe's. Yeah, please sit down. If you feel that the presence of Burning Man in the Black Rock Desert has contributed something positive to Washoe County, please stand up. That was not a trick question. It's totally okay to not agree with that. Please sit down. If you feel that Burning Man has been a detriment to Washoe County, I will not ask you to stand up, because you would be in the minority based on the last question. But I do invite you to let me know Anything that you feel like you would like to let me know. And you can write me directly, kim.cook@burningman.org. You can also write communications@burningman.org because I think that more than just me would like to know and hear what it is you have to say. All right, I had one more question, but I forgot what it was, so you're off the hook from the standing and sitting. Oh, I remember. If you know anything about something that Burning Man does outside of the event in Black Rock City, please stand up. Thank you. You may sit down. So, for those of you who didn't just stand up, I hope you don't mind if I tell you a little bit about what it is that we do and how it is that I landed in Burning Man world. So, as mentioned, my name is Kim Cook. I'm actually from the San Francisco Bay Area. I did not go to Burning Man until I had a job interview with Burning Man. And I can tell you that I almost didn't go to my job interview because I was like, it's like camping with people I don't know in the desert. 70,000 other people will be there, and it's a job interview. I don't know if I want to do that. But it was so compelling and so interesting to me to find out what was going on there. I knew for sure that the art was incredible, but I also knew for sure that there was like this kind of big, what I thought of as a mountain of creative and knowledge assets that was very tied into itself in a fairly closed world. And I had spent more than 20 years working out in the world at the grassroots level in community, and I was pretty sure that those burners might know something that the people that I had been working with across the country could use. And that was my motivation for showing up for that very scary 4 days in the desert job interview. I also thought it would be a very interesting next part of my life and my story. So in 1996, when I asked myself about my career aspirations and my career goals, I set some values for myself, and they were love, learning, and travel. Love as in community, love, learning always, and travel is a way in which I could experience both a sense of love of community and learning. So I have been working guided by that impulse, and Burning Man felt to me like a place where I could learn more, where I could experience the love of community, and as it turns out, I also do a fair amount of travel, not only to Reno. The interview process was fascinating because the CEO and the other founders said to me, this is a global movement, and we're only going to get this much bigger in the desert, maybe not bigger at all in Nevada, but the ideas of the culture are growing and expanding, and we need to think about how those translate. When I applied for the job, they said that you had to be a burner to be eligible for the position, but I decided that they would have to tell me no. I wasn't going to say no to myself. So I went ahead and applied, and the conversation that we had was exactly the conversation I wanted to have, which is how do we bridge the talent and the resources and the creativity of what's happening in Black Rock City out into the broader world. And I will tell you that the process of making a city, and it is a city, year over year in the desert, has allowed for the possibility of trying things, experimenting, learning, and doing them differently over and over again. So you may know that Black Rock City has over 70,000 what we call citizens, right? That some people call them burners. We have emergency services, we have a hospital, we have a FAA-approved airport, we have a city plan, we have all of those participants, and we have rangers, which there are 800 volunteers who are working between law enforcement and participants for conflict resolution and health and wellness. We also have more than 7,000 volunteers who build and dismantle that city every year, which is phenomenal to have that kind of volunteer support and effort. We also have people who've learned to use heavy equipment, people who've learned to work together in the numbers of 100 or more to build the structures, to build the art, and to facilitate and foster a sense of co-creation. So you have these incredible bonds of people who came together, and the art becomes actually sort of the byproduct of being together with people, learning together, and making and doing things. So the net result is that Burning Man has become what we call a permission engine, but also an activator of citizen behavior. There are 10 principles to Burning Man. They were not written until 2004. They were written because there are 85 other events and 300 regional contexts around the world of people trying to replicate what it is that Burning Man does. And so the principles were written not so that we'd all sign up and consider them our credo for life, but actually so that people could understand that these elements are a mirror or reflection of what the community does. Leaving no trace, decommodification, communal effort, gifting, participation, radical self-expression, radical inclusion, radical self-reliance, and so forth. So you don't have to sign up at the door and say, I will adhere to the 10 principles, but if you are becoming affiliated with Burning Man internationally and having an event that is officially associated with us, then you do practice the 10 principles in the design of your event. We have, so as I mentioned, out in the world, 85 other events. The oldest and largest is outside of Cape Town in South Africa. The fastest growing large event is in the Negev Desert in Israel. They're looking to try to translate that into a different kind of approach to peace between Palestinians and Israelis in the desert, so it's really interesting. We also have very small events, 300, 500 people. The one I'm planning at some point to go to is called Burning Bear. It's outside of Leipzig in a medieval castle where every room is done differently by a different artist. You get to sleep in a room and a bed, not a tent, and they have medieval bonfires in the castle grounds. That sounds pretty cool to me. So it's recontextualizing, right? It's not like exactly the same everywhere. It's the way in which it makes sense for the people in that place who want to bring something back to their community that they experience in the Black Rock Desert. We also have Burners Without Borders, which has 34 chapters, most of them national, but many are doing work internationally. And this started with Hurricane Katrina, which jumped off right as the event was breaking up in 2005. And people wanted to go back out to the Gulf Coast and to use the tools that they had around building secure shelter and 100-mile-per-hour winds, around using heavy equipment, around building things, demolishing things, and helping people. And so there were hundreds of burners, if you want to call them that. People left the Black Rock Desert, went to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and spent more than 6 months helping with hurricane relief there. And since that time, 34 chapters around the world, self-generated people that we support with tools, facilitation, some grants, and so forth, are doing work like creating secure shelter in Calais and Thessaloniki for refugees, creating maker spaces in Nepal, providing backpacks for the homeless in Detroit, creating permaculture gardens in Los Angeles. So there's this way that Burners Without Borders believe that there is no way that there will ever be enough government resources or nonprofit resources to solve our collective problems, and so we need to build resilient communities who can solve their problems together. And that's what Burners Without Borders does. There are many other programs that Burning Man has. We make grants. We make over 1.5, so about $1.5 million a year in grant funding. Many of those are global grants and micro grants through Burners Without Borders. We have education programs, fellowship programs, fiscal sponsorship programs, and so forth, and then civic arts programs, and that's what brought me to working with Washoe County. So there's an idea that I have that started when I worked with teenagers after school, and it's this idea that's very simple and actually not that original, but energy needs form to flow through to make things manifest. this is the concept, right? So an after-school program is a form or a structure. Teenagers are pure energy. You put them through an after-school program, you get a different result than if they're just running loose. If you have cake batter and you put it in a cake form, you get cake in the shape that you want. If you poured it into the oven directly, you would have a mess. There's this idea that functions in the universe of this kind of way that energy needs some form or shape. People who love spreadsheets really know that. They lean heavy on the form side. And people who throw massive raves leave heavy on the energy side. But in between, in the middle, those of us who are working in community can think carefully about things like the built environment, shade structure, tree canopy, park benches. Those are the forms and the structures that are actually creating the shape that our community will flow through and the result that we will get of maybe increased social ties or increased social isolation. And the beautiful thing about all of you in Washoe County is that you are creating a platform within which the people who live in Washoe County function, and it is due to the form that you are generating that that energy of the life of the people who live here actually is enhanced. So each of you, and there's about 250 of you, I'm guessing, represents another 10 people who are employees in Washoe County, each of who represent one 165th, or there's another 165 people who live in Washoe County that you are in some way taking care of and creating shape for. And what's so amazing to me is like, it's the small things. We've heard about some magnificent projects here today, and yet I was probably most moved by the guy who said that he couldn't hide behind his shovel, right? The guy who wants to be out on the street, and when somebody needs help, he wants an answer. That's an amazing thing. And when each person who works in the county uniquely thinks that way on a day-to-day basis, then moment to moment you are changing the quality of life for the people who live here, and you are expanding your own heart, which will probably lead to a longer life. Not that I can verify that, but I would guess. So I really love playing with this idea of like, what are we shaping? What are we building? And the Civic Arts program, which is one of the things that I lead, lets me experiment with that. Washoe County, in the form of Maura Hauenstein and others, came to Burning Man and invited us, honored us with an invitation to participate in the Art Trail project. And the beautiful thing about that conversation was we started out talking about sculpture, and we ended up talking about place, memory, story, meaning. And the willingness to evolve a project and to find the answer, not because you set a goal and you determine the method and that's the method by golly, but actually that you had a vision in mind for what you were going to do, and then you will co-create with others the best way for that to happen. And I heard that in all three presentations today. Everybody is partnering and co-creating for the best outcome, and that's incredible. So on the art trail, we had story circles. We had a stakeholder meeting where we didn't talk about what we were going to do until everybody in the room had shared a story about their connection to this place. And I made them bring an object that represented their connection to this place. Because in the end, where we're choosing to make home, we do have a connection to. And the really fascinating thing for me about Black Rock City in the desert here is that even when we go on to the desert and there's nothing there, I can be in a car with someone who's gone year over year, and they're immediately placing themselves in that place. They know where the thing, they know where the commissary is going to be. They know where the hospital is going to be. They feel the objects and the things before they're there. It's the same for me. My grandfather's home has long since been paved over. But for me, that home lives as if I can still turn the doorknob and I can still hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. It's just that potent. And so this place, this home, this Washoe County, this Reno or Sparks or Elko or Gerlach, this place that we are making a choice to be connected to, it not only has our own imprint on it, but it has its own living and breathing history. And so when we do work in community in the civic arts arena, for me, it's really important to do what we can to evoke that which is natural and a part of that place from before us and beyond us. So we have works with the Smithsonian, we have the work with Washoe County, we have a partnership with the city of San Jose. I might be going to Bilbao next year to listen to people talk about their community. I had a conversation with a woman from Coventry in the UK, and she's like, Coventry, we welcome people. We're the youngest city in the UK, average age 33. We're more patents than any place else in Britain. We're all these things. And I was like, well, does it feel that way to live there? Those are the things you're saying about yourself, and fabulous. Does it feel that way to live there? Because I moved to Philadelphia for 5 years. It's called the city of brotherly love. And let me tell you, that is not how it feels when you move to Philadelphia. Now, I came to love Philadelphia. It's a passionate and loyal city, but on the street, you're not going to get the brotherly love feeling. And so she said to me, well, even though we're the youngest city in the UK, 60,000 of the young people that live here are going to university, and 100,000 people of the young people who live here are local. And we're building housing for the university students, but we're not building housing for the local students and for the local youth who are not students, and they can't afford to get housing. Right? And then she's like, and even though we're a welcoming and a diverse city and we have more refugees than any other place in the UK, our community is highly segregated. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe the projects you want to undertake have to do with that. Like, you can shine a light on all the great, beautiful things of your place, and they will be true. When you want to really dig deep into the cultural assets, then you actually need to ask yourself, how is it not true, and how do I make it more the case? So those are the kinds of projects that I get to do with Burning Man. Let me see, we are a nonprofit. I think that's a really fascinating thing. The owners of the Limited Liability Corporation, the 6 founders of Burning Man, made an intentional choice in 2012 to donate their value of the event into a nonprofit entity, with the idea that this cultural movement, this permission engine, this civic activation, this something that people are connecting to and wanting to take out into the world, needed to have a life and longevity that was longer than their own. And so they chose to create the nonprofit, and that's how I came to be there. So that's a little bit about the work of Burning Man. I think I've fulfilled my responsibility in that regard. And now I would like to ask you to do an exercise. Do you think you have an appetite for it? It won't take hours. It just take 10 minutes. Yeah? All right. This exercise is called I See You. Raise your hand if you're sitting next to somebody you know or you know their work. Tentatively, but maybe. I might not want to do this. All right, so the exercise works like this, and I'll tell you the background for it. Every day we're going to work and we're doing the best we can to do the good work that we came to work to do. And we can celebrate these accomplishments, and I do want to say more about what I saw. It's the ability to show up sometimes is in and of itself significant. The small kindnesses, the opening the door, the pouring of coffee, the making a photocopy, the I saw you needed help, so I set down my work and then I did something else. The person who consistently smiles in the morning and you don't quite understand how they manage to do that. That's what I'm talking about. And those things largely go unseen. So what I want you to do is pair up with somebody. It can be the person you're sitting next to. You can run across the room to somebody you really want to do this with. And take a few minutes and think to yourself about what you have seen this person live. How do they be, right? Not just what do they do, but how do they be? So for example, I see you, John Slaughter. I see that you care about innovation and change. I see that you love being out of doors. I see that you are willing to put your own feet where the motion is because you walk with Washoe. I see that you are intent on raising excellence in the profile of this community. I don't see whether you're a nice guy or you get coffee for other people or those other things, but if I knew you better, I might. This is not the right way to do this exercise, but I'm picking on John. So you say, you understand, and then you say, I see you. So I see you, John Slaughter. You say the things, and then you say, I see you. John does not respond, right? He just hears it. And then John would turn to Nancy in this case if they were together and say, I see you, Nancy. I see that you are always upbeat. I see that you really care about communicating to the world. I see that you really inspire and uplift your staff. I see that you give the people around you opportunities to shine. I see you, Nancy. Those are things I've seen about Nancy. I also don't know her very well. Does that make sense? All right, so it's Community Impact Employee Day, so everybody gets an award today on the version of I See You. So find your person, do your thing. All right. How many people are still doing I see you and how many people are chatting? I can't tell. I need new process design. Are you done? All right. I see you, Washoe County. Thank you. I have a couple things I want to share with you. Once upon a time, I went to work at the Oakland Youth Chorus, and I inherited this really grumpy staff in a dusty office, and I made everybody move their desks around for no good reason, other than to break up the energy. So I encourage you to allow yourself to disrupt things. I went to Sweden last year. They wanted to give them a talk, and I asked them if it could be participatory, and they said no. They had a structure for it. But instead, I made them all move around in their chairs and see if they could sit upside down. And then I did my talk. So it's like, be willing to break up the energy, be willing to take the risk that people won't do what you ask them to do, and be willing to make small changes because they do have a ripple effect. And energy can get stuck. Things can be stale. And it's that idea that your brain will rewire if you just move your garbage can around the room once in a while. And for how long do you keep throwing the thing away in the place where the garbage can used to be? Like, there are ways that when you do those kinds of things intentionally, it sparks your own creativity and possibilities. I also wanted to share with you that it is small things that are miracles. I mean, I love big miracles, and I've definitely had some in my life. But the kinds of ways in which I see miracles are like, the other morning I was walking on 24th Street in Mission, and I heard some music. It's not mariachi, it's more that kind of polka music, which for real, I know the name of, but I can't remember. But it's, it's kind of, and I hear, epa! And I used to do a lot of rumba, a lot of salsa dancing, and I'm like, epa! And I look, and it's these two guys, they're clearly, transient. Their clothes are raggedy, their shoes are messed up, their hair's overgrown, their faces are not clean, and they're definitely over 60. And then behind the glass of the torta, burrito, taco, and check cashing place, cambiamos los cheques, prestamos, is a guy making the tortas in the breakfast. And he's got a big old grin on his face because these two old men grab each other and they danced around in a circle to the music that he was playing while he made the tortas. That, to me, was a moment of miracle and joy. So I jumped in and I went around in a circle, and they were like, Epa! So life will give you the chance to see the miracle if you will allow it to be small. I was walking down the street and there was a hummingbird. And I don't know about you, but hummingbirds get me every time. And this hummingbird flitted, and then it hovered, and then it looked at me, and then it went over to this other bush, and I swear it was looking at me. And it reminded me that this friend of mine said to me once, when I was out hiking and I called and I was crying because life was hard, and he said, and I said something about, he said, look and see if you see a bird. And then say to yourself, I see the bird, and the bird sees me. And I was like, whatever. Life is hard, don't you know? But it stayed with me, and it's become this tool to remind me that the world is not actually revolving around me. This is not new information for any of us, but it's sometimes hard to have a tangible way to be in touch with that. But when I repeat to myself, I see the bird and the bird sees me, all of a sudden my perspective shifts to bird and allows me to receive the knowledge that I am in relationship to the bird. I have something to offer by listening or observing the bird. And in this case now, the bird could be a metaphor for any other creature or person that is in your environment. And when that happens, we have this micro-awareness of the ability to uplift. And this is a part of what I'm hearing from the stories this morning, is that people are making macro changes by making micro adjustments. They're thinking one at a time about the children. They're thinking one at a time about sobriety tests. They're thinking one at a time about answering a question. And that cumulatively, the service that you are providing ends up being not just for the citizens, but it ends up elevating yourselves. It's allowing you to give something more. Now, I am a firm believer in the sort of founding of this country as one that is not one religion, period. I want people to express and to experience life in the way that they choose. But there are some biblical references that can be helpful. So forgive me for just repeating this idea of it's more blessed to give than to receive. Because it's actually very hard to receive. It's very hard to be vulnerable. It's very hard to allow others in. So the lucky, fortunate one is the one who can give. And when we begin to experience and observe each other, that I see you, that I see that you're there, that I see that you're listening to me, and I'm so very grateful to you for that. When we see that the bird is seeing ourselves, when we see that the miracles around us are really small, somehow we become more abundant and we have more to give. And that's an incredible thing. I want to tell you something, and I understand this is being videotaped, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not sure this is a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I started drinking and using drugs when I was 11 years old. I am a survivor of sexual assault. My father, my mother's boyfriend, a high school boy. I needed county services. When I was a kid, I was beaten almost daily by my mother for more than 4 years. I had chaos all around me. I arrived at a place in my life where I could not function by the time I was 19. And I mean could not function, could not keep a job, I needed county services, and I got county services. I needed intervention that didn't come when I was younger, but I was able to provide it later. I worked as a volunteer in the juvenile justice system with kids who were in there for drug rehabilitation. I know how important a youth center is. I know how important looking to sobriety as needing wraparound services. And I have 30 years of sobriety, and so you don't have to worry today, I don't think, about that. And I have had a chance to deal with and heal from my own trauma and to function and to live a life that's really full and rich. And a lot of the work that I do and that I talk about, this thing about form and shape and the built environment, like it comes from that. It comes from my own healing process. It comes from knowing that when I was a kid and it wasn't safe in my house, then it was walking the streets and finding that park bench or under that tree or someplace soft to land in the neighborhood that became more home than my home. And when I worked and I ran an after-school program for teens that were experiencing violence, like gun shootings at school, that ability to come to an after-school program and be with other kids was the thing to help them hang on to the tiny thread. We're not going to make everyone whole and healthy. We will not be the ones who save the world. But on a moment-to-moment basis, when we plant the seeds of goodness and love and kindness amongst ourselves, each other, and the people that we serve, we inherently increase the chance that collectively something good will happen. I know you didn't expect me to say that. But it seems relevant, right? It seems relevant because, as someone said when they were presenting, like, these are the things we don't necessarily talk about, and it's often them. And I can tell you that it's me. It's me you're helping, or some other version of me. And for that, I am really, truly grateful. And I want you to know that I see you. I see that you are willing to sit in this room and to celebrate each other. I see that you are willing to show up for work that sometimes is thankless. I see that I can learn from you when I heard you say, from the perspective of a law enforcement officer, you want to remove the excuses. And what I heard in that was you want to remove any barriers to success for members of this community who need help. And that is an amazing perspective for me to learn and to hear from you. So I see you and I hear you and I appreciate you and I applaud you and I thank you so much for giving me this chance to stand up in front of you and possibly fail and possibly succeed, but inevitably be as honest as I can with you about who I am and as grateful as I can be for who you are and what it is that you do. So thank you. Am I supposed to also ask if there's any questions? We're a little, I started a little early, so do you have any questions? I'm happy to answer questions about Burning Man or anything, the Washoe County Art Trail, or my own personal background, since TMI seems to be my, strength. It is more like, no, can I go to lunch now? Yeah, please. Mm-hmm. I am really proud to say that I have nothing to do with that, because what it shows you is that people who care and take action can make things happen. And so that art happens with a woman named Maria Partridge who lives here. That happens with the city of Reno that cares about it. I think there's also art, I can't remember what it's called, something that Washoe County supports. Yeah, Art Town. So there's actually, it's the people who live here that are choosing and finding and resourcing the art of Burning Man that shows up here. And yeah, I think my mic, oh, there it goes. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm one of many locals, I think, that appreciate the art and culture that Burning Man brings to our city. One concern that we hear from people sometimes is after Burning Man's over, things being dumped, things like that. We want to continue to support the organization. What can we say to those who are concerned to reassure them?
Like trash? I know we tried to do a lot of education to get people to take their trash where trash belongs. And in terms of researching the sort of implications of trash, we've just submitted an environmental impact study to the Bureau of Land Management that also speaks to that, and I think is going open for public comment pretty soon. So maybe we could take a look at that vehicle as a way to think about that. And then event operations, I'm sorry to tell you, is something that I would have to partner with my colleagues to take the conversation further, but duly noted, for sure. Yes.
Commissioner Von Hartung, I will dovetail on this. Being the commissioner in District 4, 447, 445, that's the biggest issue that people have, is the dumping just through pell-mell dumping, not to mention the abandonment of vehicles in neighborhoods. Let's leave it on that. So I'm hoping that that conversation, the leave no trace may happen on the Black Rock Desert, but it does not occur in the neighborhood.
Well, I'm a big believer that everything you do says something about you, and integrity needs to be coherent from beginning to end. And so I am confident that there are members of of the steering committee that are my colleagues that have thought and talked about this, but I am not as well informed as I should be. So I can only commit to looking into it and making sure that we consider it as something that's actionable. I know for sure people are aware that it's an issue.
My door is open, Kim, and I would love to have the conversation, whether it's Marty Benson or anyone else.
Marnie Benson, Charlie Dolman do come to mind. But I also think it's about a cultural strategy, and the communications department, it occurs to me, is also a useful partner. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I think Burning Man rests on the idea that our contribution to Washoe County is economic impact. The BlackRock Solar and BlackRock Labs definitely spent a number of years, more than a decade, donating solar across the community, which is the thing that you referenced. There are other contributions that we make financially and related to public works, but I don't know the details of that. There's been a definite effort to make specific contributions, partly through the acquisition of land, but caretaking in Gerlach. And we are in the process of opening an office now here in Reno in the old post office building. So I think that there's we've had these conversations about how do we enter into Reno in a way that is increasingly participating as a member of the community and not passing through. So many of our staff members are now in the process of relocating and will be living in Reno and become a part of the community. And I think that that's an important step in acknowledging that, that we want to have a place here and we want to participate in a positive way. Thank you for that. I saw another hand. Yes? No, it's a good question. It's just a little bit of a comprehensive question. So first of all, we do not condone the use of drugs or illegal substances at the event, but it would be naive of me to say that people don't consume drugs and alcohol. I myself, as I mentioned, am clean and sober, and there are clean and sober camps, there are family camps, and most of the consumption of alcohol or the practice of free sexual proclivities, I guess would be the word, is not happening out in the open. Those are things that people as adults choose to do and do privately. There's, as you mentioned, there's the art of Burning Man, and then there are 850 or so theme camps, and some of those theme camps include zip lining, tango club, jazz club, orchestra, chorus, etc. But some of those include teaching the practice of bondage, for example, or polyamory or other things. So there is most definitely a permissive environment in terms of the range of things that are possible to do at Burning Man. Definitely when I started to read some of the descriptions, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hell for sure. You know, and yet this protection of a society that's free to make choices for itself is important and a part of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. And it is not the dominant experience, I would say. I guess it can be if that's where your energies go, but we had 383 artworks and 500 mutant vehicles and 70,000 participants, and I can guarantee you they were not all naked and doing drugs. Yeah.
You go around the world and you work with artists. What's the one thing you can tell us about your experience with that and maybe a common thread as you've seen this organization and this movement grow?
I think the most important thing is to not make a hard line or distinction between an artist and another individual. We're all creative. We all, at minimum, are improvising our own lives. None of us has the playbook for what's going to happen day to day. None of us knows exactly how it's all going to turn out. And all of us have to be creative and resilient in response to our life experiences. So artists, there are some practitioners who make art that is astonishing, and that's important to be excited about. What's really interesting to me is how you create conditions that ignite, opportunity and imagination in anyone. And that hunger to do that, to realize that in oneself, is definitely a universal theme for me when I'm out in the world. Thank you for the question. So that was a very sweet question from a very tough audience. So I think I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. And thank you so much for your time.
I feel so warm and loving in here. Thank you very much, Kim. Can we just give one more round of applause to Kim and our speakers today? Well, we want to thank everybody for coming today. Ultimately, we hope that you heard about some programs, and like we said at the beginning, go back to your departments and dream about what you can do to make this community a better place. So we do have lunch that's being provided for everyone today. It's in Building C, which is kind of across the courtyard. If you don't know where it is, just follow someone who looks like they know what they're doing. And our hope is while you're over there having lunch together, please talk about the programs you heard today. Talk about what you liked. Maybe you've already started to think about things that you're going to nominate your team for next year. So hope those conversations take place. And we hope to see some of you back here tonight to find out who the winners are of the 2018 Washoe Impact Awards. Stay tuned, and thank you, everybody.